Right, I want to talk to you about an update that we got in within UC. So one of the things that separates UC from many other methods is that we've always implemented a fundamental directive behind the intention of our study, right? And that is to cultivate a game plan. So a plan of action that is based around seeing potential problem before it comes, so you can integrate a variety of options that will allow you to mitigate physical violence, right? That's the objective. So people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. So the UC game plan, anyone who is familiar with UC will know that it begins with awareness. So situational and environmental awareness. You need to be switched on in condition yellow, so you're likely to spot any potential threat before it comes to threat. Observant enough that you can quickly orientate and decide and act based on any pre-threat key recognition. Right? Now, awareness will lead to escape. It's an option that you can have, and this will all take place pre-fight. But what other options awareness gives you is the option for verbal dissuasion, partial submission, posturing. All of these are non-physical options that come in from a platform of situational control. So situational control simply means controlling your environment, proxemics, where you place yourself, etc. So you're controlling on a number of levels. Situational control. Awareness to situational control is pre-fight dynamic. If it becomes necessary to become a fight dynamic, then you want to be the feeder in a relationship, in which case as we move into in-fight, we want preemption with continuous attack. That will lead to escape. And what's inside of that would be surprise, speed and violence of action. If necessary, blitzkrieg up to and including a level 10 use of force, context dictating content. Post-fight would be immediate escape, get gone. So awareness, situational control, preemption, continuous attack and escape has been the game plan for a long time. But some years ago I split UC into two facets. One being for the unarmed curriculum that's found and taught within the Commonwealth, the UK in particular, where you have been castrated in terms of your lawful, legal, what should be lawful carry of anything for the purpose of your self-protection. That's been stripped for you. So unarmed skills are really all that you have, as long as maybe any improvised tool of opportunity or tool of opportunity around you of personal carry that's certainly not a weapon by purpose-built design. But in the main, unarmed. And this game plan specifically applies to that. About 15 years ago I started to cultivate the second facet of UC, which is Tier 1 civilian. Tier 1 civilian simply relates to becoming the best that you can be at that kind of protector archetype, where you want to protect yourself, you want to protect your family, people around you or anyone defenseless, etc. Right? And Tier 1 civilian, it became necessary from a combative aspect that you enhance your combative skills, so you would learn how weapons work. You would learn point and edge weapons, you would learn blunt force trauma weapons, melee weapons, any improvised tool of opportunity, any environmental tool or strategy or tactic of opportunity, as well as where legality allows and possibility presents, you would learn how to shoot and handle firearms. So you would take your combative ability up and beyond unarmed skills to knowing how weapons work, studying weapon systems on as many levels as possible, studying tactics of warfare, criminality, etc. Right? Know your enemy. What you would also incorporate in that would be tactical combat casualty care, so you know how to apply a tourniquet, you know how to makeshift a tourniquet, you know how to apply a chest seal, you know how to makeshift a chest seal, you know how to wound pack, you know how to deal with massive blood trauma or a collapsed lung. So although your skills need to be geared towards learning how to harm, you also need to know how to heal and save life. Right? Two sides of the same coin. need to know how to take life, you need to know how to save life. Context dictates content in all of those cases, right? In addition to that, you might learn offensive, defensive driving. You might learn some urban survival stuff, how to prevail in a city. If the grid goes down and you need to find shelter, you need to find water and the power's gone out. How to prevail in a suburban environment or in the wilderness, 72 hours, what you need, you know how to start fire, how to build a shelter, etc., etc. A myriad of skills that would accumulate to you being the best that you could be in terms of combative practitioner, self-protection practitioner. So with that in mind then, it became, you know, obviously UC has been taught in over 40 countries where the rules of engagement are different, where the laws on weapon carry are different, so you know, it had to expand way beyond unarmed skills, particularly as the threats evolved, because the threats evolved to expect multiple armed assailants. Whoever you're dealing with, expect he's got a weapon, he's got a friend who's also got a weapon or more, and they've had experience and they've got training. You can't deal with that unarmed. You need to know how weapons work, and you need to adapt and improvise in order to coexist safer, mitigate the violence to as best you can, and live safer within an environment where you have been outlawed to carry anything for the purpose of your own self-preservation. So I'm not telling you by any means to break the law, but I'm telling you, for a start, move to a better place that will allow you to potentially carry a weapon. It's on my to-do list, trust me. Or learn how improvised tools of opportunity work. What I'm not telling you, if you live in a Commonwealth country, is that you should carry a weapon that would be considered illegal by this legal system, the man-made legal system. You're no good to anyone in jail, so you have to coexist. But you should know how weapons work. So if somebody broke in your house, armed home invasion, and you picked up a kitchen knife, it would be useful if you know how to use it. Same applies to a baseball bat, same applies to if you have to make a gun safe, any number of things, right? So with the tier 1 civilian type of element coming into UC, there was a need to evolve for varying degrees of ability. So what you're looking for is that tier 1 civilian. So tier 1 is the best of the best. Look, in the military context, there's special forces and there's elite special forces. Elite special forces are tier 1. If you take that analogy and apply it to the best that you could be as a self-protection trainee, then all of the elements I've mentioned, plus a good level of physical fitness, explosivity, strength training, cross-training and other methods would all be a part of your regime. But in the main, you would stick to a similar game plan, or the same game plan, because it's efficient and it works. The only difference is now, we have changed terminology, which give you an immediate understanding of expanded options. So example, awareness stays as it is. What awareness will allow you is time and options. Options to do something before they do something. To situational control. Situational control remains the same. I want to control personal space between us. I want to put myself in an environment where you are responding to me, and I'm likely to be able to see if you're with anybody else and what your hands are doing. So I will contact manage you and I'll control the environment to the best of my advantage. I will also get you responding to me immediately within this situation, thereby at a psychological level I'm also in control. Taking initiative would be preemption. Maintaining initiative would be what you previously knew as continuous attack. Might be continuous action, simply. But maintaining initiative is exploiting the initiative you just created. Because the one who goes first with the most is the best, regardless of the physical dynamic. And then once the threats subside and you have stayed or remained, or strive to at least, to remain within the realms of reasonable and necessary use of force, you needed to stop said threat, you would tactically disengage. And every layer of this is designed to get you to a higher and higher level of combative efficiency within this encounter. So rather than, look for the exit, run for it, I want to preordain where the exit is before this event, because I'm cognitive enough to maintain cognition during this fight dynamic on my adrenal curve as it's rising. And even when I access adrenaline and take and maintain initiative, I know exactly where I'm going. I might also back away with my back to a wall so I can't be flanked. I know that my head might be on a swivel, swiveling left and right, scanning the environment as I do so, because I'll be under a degree of tunnel vision. And where legality allows, I would now access any personal carry weapon or pick something up that I feel will be of use to me, just in case his friends now can't. And I would extract myself from the situation in a more tactical sense, hence tactical disengagement. Of course, inside of that fight dynamic, from the beginning to the end, throughout the full spectrum, I want to be in complete control of me. So I want a high level of awareness, observation, calm and confidence, so I remain as cognitive as I can. Then I want to access that cyborg mentality that allows me to access cold clinical aggression, to take initiative and maintain initiative until the job's done. It's a cyborg mentality, accessed to get done what needs to be done, to simply do what needs to be done, not in any way what's emotionally triggered. As soon as the threats subside, I will switch back to a high level of awareness and observation, because I need to have the ability inside of that fight dynamic to communicate in fight and post event to any third party. So I need to recognize if the secondary subject is running in towards me aggressively in aid of his friend, then I need to keep fight state. But if it's a scared observer with a camera phone, or a witness, or this person's relative that's just crying because I've just beat up their friend in their brain, well, then they're going to be panic stricken, and what you say now needs to calm them. Because remember, what you say and are heard saying will have an effect post event when you have to articulate your defense to a police officer or a court of law, particularly one which protects criminals and persecutes good people. But I digress. So having the state management in fight to recognise once this threat's done, engage, check in threat, or stop, communicate. Call police, it wasn't my fault, it's fine, no problem to you. This person started on me, they wouldn't let me leave, and he attacked me. I had the honest belief my life was in danger. I did what was necessary and no more. Call the police and I'll wait. So having that ability to communicate inside of the fight dynamic is the difference that makes the difference. And that's somebody at a tier 1 level. Somebody that could be in a condition red situation, high stress level, real threat to life, heart rate potentially moving towards 175 beats per minute or more, still remain cognitive, with a degree of cognition in place and in control enough to do what needs to be done next, with some tactical thinking, if you like. So I need to be able to keep a higher level of brain state post-event so that I can find an exit, administer first aid if necessary, make a phone call for help, talk to a police officer without incriminating myself, or drive a vehicle without crashing it. So throughout the full spectrum of a violent event, pre-fight, in-fight, and post-event, the implementation game plan suggests that those factors all have been considered and practiced. It begins with seeing it coming from awareness. So just to reiterate, awareness, situational control, take initiative, maintain initiative, tactically disengage. This is the upgraded version of the UC game plan for a high level of performance from a tier 1 civilian type of thinker. Peace.